After 10 years of 4-H participation and competition, I had my proudest moment. My vet science record book placed first at the state record book competition. The award was a trip to Washington, D.C. with all the other record book winners in Texas from the other categories. There were 35 of us in all. Together we flew off to share a once-in-a-lifetime adventure. Although the primary purpose of the trip was to attend the National 4-H Conference, we were able to visit all the touristy attractions that one would expect on a trip to the capital of our great nation. The most memorable parts of my trip to the National 4-H Conference in Washington, D.C. include the weather, the fine dining, and the Arlington National Cemetery. The first thing I noticed upon arrival was the weather. It was November, and I was used to the warm, humid South Texas air of Corpus Christi. It was 40 degrees and windy when we stepped out of the airport. According to July 25th, 2014, updated on the National Weather Service statistics shows the average temperature in Washington, D.C. in November is between 41 and 50 degrees. According to the same source, the average temperature in Corpus Christi is 76 degrees. I can confirm this personally because I know for a fact that I wore shorts the last 3 Thanksgiving dinners. Although I knew it was going to be cold, the heaviest jacket I had worn was not heavy enough. All of us huddled together for warmth as we waited for the bus to take us to the National 4-H headquarters where our rooms were located. When we weren't indoors, it was miserable. However, the cold seemed to bring out the energy in everyone as we walked really fast, jogged, and even sprinted through the crowded streets of D.C. from the hotel to the convention center and to all the tourist attractions. The second thing I enjoyed about Washington was experiencing all the new and different kinds of food. My favorite was the dining experience at the Capitol Grill, located on the famous Pennsylvania Avenue. In July of 2014, the official tourism sites of Washington, D.C. reported that the Capitol Grill is a must-visit because of the fine cuisine and great location. The same store states that the restaurant has a 4-star rating and reservations are highly recommended. This is because of not only tourism, but the business community, and let's not forget the federal employees. As we were seated at our table and all dressed up, we were feasting on extravagant food such as aged beef, carpaccio, wrapped mozzarella, smoked salmon, and lobster. We even had banana foster for dessert. My favorite was the aged beef and the banana foster. I really enjoyed them cooking dessert right at our table. It was amazing that we could see out the window and the National Mall was right there and the Capitol was right down the street. So if you ever visit D.C., I would highly recommend going to the Capitol Grill. My third and final phase of our trip was to the Arlington National Cemetery. It was beautiful and an honorable sight that caused all of us to realize just how blessed we are to live in a great country filled full of men and women who proudly serve and protect us. On July 24th, 2014, the Arlington National website reported that Arlington is both a national treasure and an active cemetery. The cemetery conducts between 27 and 30 funerals each weekday and between 6 and 8 services on Saturdays. That's nearly 7,000 services per year. It so happened the weather that day was not only cold but rainy. However, no one complained. No one spoke. We just looked in awe at the number of people who spent their lives serving us and protecting our freedom. According to the before-mentioned website, Arlington National Cemetery is the final resting place for more than 400,000 active duty service members, veterans, and their families. It was cold and rainy and miserable, yet solemn and peaceful. The trees, the grass, and the white markers that dotted the vast fields created a feeling that cannot be described. We heard the firing of the rifles as we walked away from this world back to the busy streets of D.C. Soon we were packed up and back on the plane to Texas. As I looked out my window, I could not believe all that I had been blessed with through 4-H. I had the opportunities to serve as a 4-H livestock ambassador, to travel all over the state of Texas showing goats and rodeoing with my horses. And now this trip to Washington, D.C. with all the other members, certainly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The freezing weather as we stepped out of the airport, the fancy food as we ate at the Capitol Grill, and the sites that represent our country, especially the Arlington National Cemetery, will forever be etched in my heart and memory.